Hello, welcome to today's webinar, Access Your Workflows Anytime, Anywhere with WorkfloPlus Web. My name's Louise Chaston and I'm a Customer Experience Support Specialist at Interware. Before we get started, I just want to run through some quick agenda items. All of our attendees today are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions at all during the course of the webinar, please feel free to ask them via the control panel on the right side of your screen. There should be a red box with a white arrow that you can click to bring up your control panel. We'll then go through these at the Q&A session at the end. We will try and get through as many questions as we can during the session today, but if we are able to if we're unable to answer anything, we'll get back to you afterwards. Finally, a recording of the webinar will be emailed to you in the next few days. Now, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our two presenters today, Hannah Bailey, Business Development Director, and Alana Burton, Head of Customer Experience. Hannah will start the session by talking through some background on WorkfloPlus. Alana will then follow through with a guided tour of the new web client. We'll then finish off with a Q&A session at the end. Thanks once again for joining us today, and I'll now hand over to Hannah.
Yeah, thank you. No, thanks, Louise. And yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us today on this, our first in a series of webinars that we will be delivering throughout 2022. As Louise has just mentioned, I'm Hannah Bailey, Business Development Director at Interware, and I'm very excited to be sharing with you our latest development of WorkfloPlus Web. But before I hand over to Alana, who will be unveiling to you all its exciting new features and functionality, I appreciate there may be some people on today's session that are not yet familiar with our digital workflow platform, WorkfloPlus. So I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so just to give you a brief overview on what it is and how businesses who have deployed it are seeing the benefits, and in some cases with increases of up to 250% in their productivity. Just to reiterate as well, Louise's point on questions during the session, we would like to encourage anyone that has any questions, please do post them into the questions section and we'll look to address as many as we can at the end of this session. So, the evolution of workflow automation. I think it's true for the majority of industry sectors that now more than ever are going through this sort of continual process of reviewing, trialing and adopting new technologies and digital solutions to ensure that they have the most effective way of working within their business. There is definitely an ongoing pressure and I think noticeable impact felt from the challenges and issues thrown up in today's ever-changing political and global climate. And I promised myself I wouldn't mention the P word, as in pandemic, but I think, you know, there is no doubt that the business landscape has been impacted and as a result is rapidly having to change. There is also a constant demand now to do more with less. So I think finding new ways to improve efficiencies, increase productivity, but while ensuring a safe working environment for their workforce is being felt at all levels across the business. So looking at ways of working smarter rather than harder is definitely featuring more on people's radar. And at Interware, we have certainly seen an increase over the past 12 to 18 months from businesses of all sizes, from small SMEs right up to large global enterprise organisations, who are reviewing and looking at how they can evolve and improve their current operational processes, which for many, I think, are still heavily reliant on paper-based forms. So digitisation and the introduction of digital workflows is enabling these companies to respond to rapid digital change. So WorkfloPlus. WorkfloPlus is a workflow automation software that provides businesses with a digital toolbox containing everything you need to digitize and remodel any business process or task into a set of digital work instructions quickly, easily, and with simplicity, which can then be distributed to workers on their mobile or wearable device wherever they happen to be in the world. I've just mentioned the wearable devices. I'm referring to devices such as the RealWear HMT and their latest edition, the Navigator 500, which are voice-controlled head-mounted tablets. And as RealWear's longest-serving partner, we've ensured that we've built WorkfloPlus to complement all its brilliant features and get the absolute most out of the device. I'm sure at some point here there's going to be a webinar from us on this, so please do check back and we will keep you posted. excuse me. So it's through the conversion of this sort of operational and business processes, such as audits, inspections, maintenance procedures, site safety checks, there's many more, into digital workflows, where WorkfloPlus has supported companies across different verticals to successfully build better connected workforces by providing staff, frontline teams with accessible, standardized digital work instructions and giving direct access and connectivity with real-time information and resources to help them do their job more effectively. So WorkfloPlus, as you can see on the screen here, comprised of 3 key components. There's an intuitive drag and drop style editor, which is where you create and build the workflows, the online dashboard, which is how you administer workflows, set up user permissions. You can also select your preferred remote expert platform and also view real-time user information, this is a great tool to provide instant visibility to senior management, supervisors, and any other part of the business that might be involved in the project at that time, by keeping them up to date of job progress and then removing that requirement for end users and operators to stop during their tasks, send details, photos, either in a separate email or perhaps another platform like WhatsApp. And then finally, there's the WorkfloPlus client. And for those on this session who are already familiar with WorkfloPlus, you will notice in the image on the slide, this is showing the current client for accessing workflows. But in a moment, Alana will take you through the new web version and all the added benefits that provides. So another area that we're really noticing that is helping drive the decision to move to digital workflows is the ability to be able to capture better quality and more accurate data, especially from the operational side of the business, which then can be used for data visualization. So WorkfloPlus provides the option to capture real-time data at any point within a workflow, from allowing the user to take a photo or video, perhaps record a measurement, scan a barcode, to providing time-stamped and geolocation information. This can all be done automatically and then transferred and generated into a report, which can be sent out or uploaded to wherever it needs to go. So it saves that person having to complete the job, having to then go back to the office and input the same information and the same data that they've just captured from the field into another application or system. So massive time savings can be made. And we actually have one customer who's saving 4 hours in inspection as a result just of this feature alone. So the setting up of reports or creating Power BI dashboards is another great key feature of WorkfloPlus and used by our customers as a form of business intelligence, helping them to make better data-informed decisions. I mentioned earlier about WorkfloPlus helping businesses create a more connected working environment, and this is because it's been developed as an open platform, making it easier to integrate into other systems and companies establish IT infrastructure. It can often be the digital bridge that many organisations are currently missing and looking for to enable their existing systems, which previously may not have been able to talk to each other, to connect, communicate and pass data between them, giving full accountability. This means that as workers go about their daily tasks, completing workflows, they can automatically update detail on these centralised systems, as well as trigger notifications to other divisions or areas of the business to automate, allocate new jobs, or provide the information required to address any issues as they arise. I briefly mentioned at the start how the deployment of digital workflows with WorkfloPlus for one of our customers has achieved some rather impressive results, with an increase in their productivity up to 250%. Well, you can see on the screen, this particular client is an oil and gas company called Petrofac, and we've been partnered with them now for a few years. During that time, they've digitised more than 1,500 North Sea inspections, and that's as part of an ongoing digitalisation programme. This is not only success story we've heard Interware, we get a lot of positive feedback on the benefits and the value that WorkfloPlus is bringing to their businesses. And also, as you will see there on the screen, another customer making great savings is Network Rail, who through converting a series of paper-based forms using track renewals on the operations, they can now achieve a saving of £14 for every pound spent. So massive savings are being made there. And we have a lot more success stories like this, which Unfortunately, I don't have time to go through all on this webinar today, but if anyone here on the session now is interested, please do feel free to reach out, contact me after this session, and I would be happy to give you more information. So hopefully that gave everyone a quick overview of WorkfloPlus and how it can help drive productivity, connectivity, simplicity, and accountability in your business. I'd now like to hand over to our Head of Customer Experience, Alana Burton, who will take you through a guided tour of our new web client.
Thanks, Hannah. We're absolutely delighted to be introducing the next step forward in WorkfloPlus. For some of you joining today's session, you may be familiar with WorkfloPlus. However, I appreciate that for some of you, it may be your first introduction. So if you would like a further overview of the solution, please do get in touch, and there'll be details for that at the end of this session. WorkfloPlus Web unlocks a whole world of potential to create new value, enable new use cases, and provide the right solutions for our customers. We've developed WorkfloPlus Web with our customers firmly in mind, using their valuable feedback to design a solution that is flexible and works in ways that our customers need. The focus of WorkfloPlus Web is collaborative working, with improved options for structuring work, managing teams, and creating schedules. It also introduces new exciting ways to make the most of your data, which we know is a key benefit of using WorkfloPlus. The first key step change in WorkfloPlus Web is new ways to structure jobs. In WorkfloPlus previously, there was a direct correlation between jobs and workflows, meaning that in completing a job, the user would complete a single workflow. In WorkfloPlus Web, jobs can be structured to contain multiple tasks and to-do tasks, tasks that are not defined by a singular workflow. In our initial release, tasks are based and presented as individual workflows and to-do items, meaning that you can now create jobs with multiple individual workflows to complete. For example, there could be an initial health and safety check to complete, followed by preparatory work, then the main maintenance task, and finally a closing check and signing off. As part of this, groups can be assigned to jobs, meaning that teams of people can work collaboratively to complete a job together. In the future, we have exciting plans for all new kinds of tasks, opening new opportunities for you to use WorkfloPlus. The next key change is introducing new ways to utilise your data. WorkfloPlus has always provided value to our customers through the capture of data points throughout their process, and this remains a key focus of our product. In WorkfloPlus Web, you can now create richer job, workflow, and step metadata, which allows you to analyse your process, efficiency, assets in much greater detail, giving you access to insights previously not possible. We have conducted a complete overhaul of the user experience on WorkfloPlus for Web, providing a new job completion experience that is friendly and easy to use for workers completing processes. Finally, by utilising the latest web technology, WorkfloPlus is now available on more devices than ever before. WorkfloPlus Web will become the core of WorkfloPlus, where you'll conduct all aspects of job completion, administrative work, data review, reporting, and more, all across any device that can run on a web browser. So, without further ado, let's take a look at WorkfloPlus Web. To access WorkfloPlus Web, navigate to web.workfloplus.com using your job browser on your PC or your local browser on your mobile device, and use your existing credentials to log in. For new users, these are provided when you sign up. The first thing you will see upon sign-in is the schedule screen. Here you can see all of the work that is assigned to you or jobs you are following. Workers on the ground get a clear, concise view of what they need to do that day and also across the week. It's easy to switch between week views to see the work that is ahead or work completed in the past by using the calendar at the top of the screen. In the top left corner, you have your hamburger menu, which is part of ongoing unification work. This gives you easy access to all the services across WorkfloPlus, including your management dashboard, report designer, and queries functionality. Again, in the job schedule screen, you have the eye icon, which will toggle to show days with or without jobs, depending on your preference. And you have your team information and your initials icon and sync status at the top right, showing any outstanding syncs to be completed. From this page, we can navigate to view all jobs, giving us a full list of jobs and the ability to start a new job. Previously, users would be able to only see jobs scheduled for them, started or completed by them on their device in Jobs and Jobs History. This new job browsing functionality not only replaces that for WorkfloPlus Web, but introduces a new flexible searching tool. In here, users can search for jobs using multiple search terms, including jobs shared with them. So in the new search bar, here you can free type text that is included in the job name or workflows, and it will bring up a list of those jobs in all states for all dates. For instance, inspection. You can also search by date range. When a date range is selected in the calendar, this will return jobs in any state with any name within that date range. You can now also search by state. So searches for all jobs with any names, any date, defined by what they are looking for. So for instance, jobs in progress, jobs that have been closed, not started yet, and also scheduled. We've also got a new functionality by using search for tags. This new function enables users to search by tags defined in each individual job. So for instance, it may be that you have a number of jobs run from the same workflow, but have different naming conventions, such as locations, companies, or projects. You can tag these into the jobs and search and use them in the job searching browser. To open a job, simply select the job you want to view, and this will take you to the job details panel. Let's go back to job schedule, where we'll start to build a job by selecting new job. Earlier we talked about moving away from the ideology that one single user completes one job, a workflow. What we have found from customer feedback is that we needed a more flexible and collaborative approach, so that's what we did. With new job creation, we are giving the user the option to add multiple workflows and multiple to-do tasks. Previously, a user would select a new job, select the workflow for which they want to run, and off they go. Now users can build a job based on multiple options from their desktop or mobile device. This unlocks exciting new features and new use cases for our customers and makes it easier to create and manage jobs and workflows in WorkfloPlus. For example, if a customer is using WorkfloPlus to conduct maintenance work on equipment, the multiple task system means that the work can now be broken down into sections. The first task might be health and safety, or a health and safety workflow that is done for all jobs. The second, the actual maintenance activity itself, and the third, a sign-off process, where the user enters any additional information and adds their signature. In this case, if the first and third tasks are generic and used across multiple jobs and processes, these workflows can now be independently managed and maintained, and these steps can no longer have to be built into the maintenance activity itself. In another example, a team of users can be assigned to a job with multiple tasks and work collaboratively to complete the activities. If, for example, there were multiple repeated activities to be completed within an area, such as painting objects, the team can select tasks from the overall job and complete them, working as a team towards a collective goal. To start building a job containing a workflow, you can select New Job and use the new searchable alphabet at the top to select the workflow you want to start and build with, and then populate the build with a singular workflow to either build around or run. To start a job from scratch, simply select New Job and then select Blank Job. This will take you to your jobs detail panel, where you can start to add tasks to your jobs, schedule, assign, share, and see status. Firstly, you can give your job a name by entering this in the top left of the job page. Hit save, and this will create your job and allow you to edit. This is where some of the core changes come into play, and you can now build tasks into your job. To add tasks to your job, select Add New Task and choose from either one of your workflows or to-do list to free type. So here we can enter a workflow and then add a new task, which will be a to-do task. And I can free type. and I can add multiple, as many as I like. And if I'm not happy with the order, I can play around with it and move them. Now that we've added in our tasks, we can start to look at additional functionality, such as the sharing options. On the right-hand side, you have Assign. This is new functionality, which allows you to share the job with another user and grant them different permissions dependent on the actions you want them to carry out. You may want a user to just view a job, or you may want them to be able to rearrange the tasks or simply just complete with no ability to make structural changes to the job. To assign a user, press the plus button, type in the user or select the user you wish to share it with, and then on the right-hand side, you can change their user permissions, so what they can do with this job. You can have viewer, operator, manager, or owner. And to access a breakdown of these permissions, hit the I information button, and this will bring up the job role information. So for instance, I'll select Louise, and I would like Louise to be a manager of this job. I'll assign it to her so that she can see it on her job browsing page and hit share. And we can see that Louise is now populated there. Now we've added a user, we can schedule our job to start after a specified date by selecting Schedule. Here we can select either a full day, which means this job can be started at any point within the specified day, or toggling off to set a start or after time and date. Hitting save. If you've previously shared this job with a user, like I have here with Louise, this schedule information will appear on that user's job browsing page. If you are scheduling this for a specified user and have not yet shared with them, you can also do this afterwards. You may remember that we showed you how to search using tags on the job browsing page. This is now where you can add that tag of which you or another user will use to search. So for instance, I may want to use the inspection tag here, which means on my job browsing page, I can enter inspection, and this will help users to find it. Now we've built our job and shared and scheduled it, we can start our job. You can complete your jobs in any order. So for instance, I can select, I've completed that to-do task before any of my others that are in front of it. I can deselect that because my job is still open. But let's go ahead and do it in order. So the to-do task can just be checked off once they're done. And then to start our workflows, we just hit start. And we can navigate easily through our steps, pausing at any time. So we have a date input step and a warning note. To go to the next step, I simply hit next. And you can already see that I can easily go back and forth between my steps. We have a video attachment in that step. It's an instruction step. We can take an image. I'm going to purposefully miss that to show you what it looks like when a step isn't completed and how it highlights. So we'll continue anyway. And now we can see I've missed adding the information, the photo to that step. It's highlighted in orange so that if I needed to navigate back to that later on to add some further information, I can easily see where I need to complete the steps. And I can either use my keyboard to sign my name, or I can use my signature and trackpad. Next step. And we're at the end of our task. Now, despite not having completed all of the information, I am still able to finish this task. And we can see here on the attachments on the right-hand side, any images that we take or any assets that we add, such as a signature, will start to populate in our attachment section. And then we can click our next step. And at this point, because the job is still open, I haven't closed it yet. I can still continue to add new tasks if there's additional things that I need to add to it before closing it. Once you've completed all of the tasks within your job, you can select Close Job at the top right. Once selected, it will change the status to close, and I'm unable to make any changes to that job. I can now go to my job, view all of the tasks that have been completed as part of that, and here on my workflow, I can select the 3 dots to the right-hand side of it to be able to download my PDF report. So that's the whistle-stop tour of WorkfloPlus Web. This year, we have continual development of this with more features and functionality coming. As mentioned, this opens it up to faster updates, faster development, and faster releases. I mentioned earlier that we are planning to release a new editor experience on the web, which will further unlock new possibilities for WorkfloPlus. WorkfloPlus Web is accessible via any browser, making it easy to access on almost any device. However, if you're an Android and iOS user, you can add WorkfloPlus to your home screen as a progressive web app. And that's it from me. Stay tuned for more updates. If you'd like further information or a further session on this, please do get in touch by emailing us at support@interware.com, and we'll be happy to help you with this. But there are certainly exciting times ahead. For now, I'll hand back to Louise, who has been reviewing your questions.
Thanks, Alana. Okay, so I'm just going to go through some of the questions that have come through during the course of the meeting so far. One of the ones that's just been sent through is with regards to report generation. So when you're creating a workflow which is built up of multiple tasks, what does the report output look like? Is that something that can be combined into one overall report, or will individual reports be produced? So I don't know if that's something that Hannah or Alana is able to respond to.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Really good question, and definitely something that has been well thought out in terms of the development of WorkfloPlus for Web. In the first release, the reports are downloadable per workflow, so per job that contains a workflow and is run off a workflow. There is development scheduled within our roadmap to, if you like, stitch it all together. So say you have multiple tasks in the job or multiple workflows, there is development scheduled to pull them all together into one unique report. And I believe to be able to set it so that it pulls only the reports that you want to see. Haven't seen a version of it, but I do know that it's in the roadmap for a later release. I don't have a time frame on it, unfortunately, but yes, that's definitely something that we'll be releasing to WorkfloPlus Web, the ability to stitch all of the reports together.
Perfect. Thanks, Alana. Another question that we just got through is, can you explain a little bit more about why we've gone down this route of launching a web-based version of WorkfloPlus? What was the rationale behind that?
Yeah, of course. I think, like with any development that we do here, it is heavily focused and comes very heavily from customer feedback. And WorkfloPlus, multiple versions of WorkfloPlus have been around for some time now, and we've gathered over that time an awful lot of feedback from our users. And basically, it comes down to a more collaborative approach and flexible, with the ability for users to be able to share and complete jobs in line with one another. Previously, there was the ability to transfer jobs where a job would physically leave a user's device, go onto another one for them to complete their tasks, and then either transfer back or complete the job. Whereas now, with the new sharing and assignment functionality, users are able to share and follow jobs so they can keep an eye on what's going on in the ground. Leave your dashboard or your jobs list, it stays there so that you can continue to see what's being completed by other users, adding that flexibility. There's also the ability to roll in additional tasks and additional jobs. So as I mentioned in my demo, we're moving away from this ideology that somebody goes onto sites, for an example, to complete a single job defined by a single workflow. The feedback that we received is that that's not the case all of the time. And sometimes there are multiple tasks. There are tasks to do prior to a workflow, prior to a job, and that might be ensuring that health and safety gear is present, or signing a job off, or something to do at the end of a task. And wrapped around that. So the ability to pull together multiple jobs based on multiple workflows or to do tasks was another thing that increases that flexibility that we were hearing was required from our customer base. Yeah, so it is that more collaborative approach and more flexibility.
Perfect, thanks, Alana. We just had another question through with regards to languages. Is this system available in other languages? Just what's available at the moment?
Yeah, so yes, yeah, we, tac, sim, multiple ways to say yes. WorkfloPlus by default will detect the browsing language, so it will detect what the user is on. But also we have multiple languages that you can set to by default. Some of those English, obviously by standard, German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, for our friends over at Total Power. So yeah, there are multiple selections to be able to choose from in terms of the language.
Perfect. And what about adding new languages, Lana? Because well, someone's mentioned Russian here and Dutch, which aren't covered currently. Is it possible to integrate new languages into the system very easily?
Yeah, so not by standard in the first release. However, as I mentioned, the web browser will detect what language the user is using and defined by those settings. Over time, we will be introducing new languages. And obviously, if there is a language that isn't currently available, please let us know and we will work to introduce that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just having a little look through some of these other questions. One has come through with regards to a signature panel. So we're looking at the to-do list tasks that's built into the workflow generation. Is there something, or is there any sort of plans in the pipeline to perhaps bring in some sort of approval stage to say that someone's confirmed that they've read something, perhaps?
Just in what format? Is that outside of a job? Because obviously you have the signature step that can be formed as part of a workflow. So yeah. If you, the way that I would work that within the web client currently would be to have your wraparound task and then to have that mini flow at the end that might have a couple of steps, and it might be, I confirm that I've read this, date and time, for instance, in that step, and then move on to a signature step. And then once that is completed, it will form part of that job with those overarching tasks, if it needed to be outside of a workflow. If it was to, you could also have it as a couple of steps at the end of your workflow. As a signature step as a to-do task, that's not currently possible, but it's something I can take away and feedback to the team.
Sure.
We're fortunate that we have in-house developers and we're able, especially with WorkfloPlus Web, this really does give us the ability to implement changes really quickly. And it gives us complete control over our releases, which means we can do them a lot faster. So that's more features, whether they come from feature requests or something that we think is going to be a good idea to introduce into WorkfloPlus and beneficial for our customers, or bug fixes, the rare bug fixes that we do see, we can implement changes and bug fixes faster.
Brilliant, that's great. Thanks, Lana. Just having a little look through to see what else we've got down here. We're talking about making the system available on premise because of the internet cloud access is a limitation for some customers. Is that something that's in the roadmap or it's currently capable of?
I think I don't know if you want me to answer this one, Hannah, or over to you, completely up to you. But an on-premise solution will be a complete custom solution defined by the customer's requirements. So at the moment it's available via a web browser, but an on-premise solution would be certainly something that would need to be discussed and spec'd out from the ground up in terms of being able to have it on-prem.
Okay, but I'll just add to that because that is something that we currently do provide to customers. So we do have customers that have an on-premise version of WorkfloPlus. So, you know, we do have different, we appreciate that there is different requirements for our application out there. And we do have both in kind of oil and gas and in pharmaceutical manufacturing, where they have on-premise versions of WorkfloPlus. So this is something that we can absolutely look at. And whoever's put that question, please do drop us a note, and that's something we can discuss with you.
Thanks, Hannah. Just going through some of the other questions here, just bear with me a moment. There's a question here with regards to extending WorkfloPlus outside of the workflow. So I'm thinking this is more of an integration type question, because currently obviously WorkfloPlus has an open API, so it does integrate very easily with other systems. And it's talking about asking whether we can create customized reports which will push into their systems. So I don't know if Alana, you can take that one in terms of report customization and integrations.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So appreciate that I didn't actually cover that as part of my demo in terms of how the integrations and reporting functionality works with the web client, and it's the same as it was previously in the first instance, and it's managed within your dashboard, so that you can still completely customize your reports, and there is almost an endless amount of possibilities into when it comes to integrations and getting your data to where it needs to be. So that's still managed in the same way. So you have the option to have email or HTTP integrations and triggers or queries, and we can work with you to find what the best solution is. So again, copying Hannah's wording here, but whoever sent that question through, please do get in touch if you have some requirements that you want to discuss in terms of getting your data out of WorkfloPlus and customizing your reports. Definitely still possible, and that's going to follow us through. There is ongoing unification work with WorkfloPlus Web as well to bring it all into one solution. So at the moment, you would still set up your workflows, you would still set up your integrations and your reports in the dashboard. But when a job is completed in the web client, those integrations and those reports still fire as they would have done previously in current version. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Lana. So I'm just looking at the next question that's come through, and it's asking about WorkfloPlus having the ability to have repetitive tasks. So we're looking, for example, safety acknowledgement in different workflows, which will make them easier to manage. So previously, the jobs had to be downloaded on the end client, the mobile or the HMT first. So the question is really sort of, is it managed in a different way now?
I think from what I'm understanding from that question, Louise, is it possible to have like a standard operating procedure, so a templated workflow, something that can be used, or standard templated tasks? So for instance, again, I'm moving away from this ideology whereby one job is one workflow into wraparound tasks. So are you asking, I'm guessing the question is, can you create a job with multiple tasks in it that becomes a standard operating procedure and therefore can be copied and reran? We have got that on our roadmap to work on, to build templated workflows, or the ability to build templated jobs and tasks. In the first instance, we will be slightly taking that offline for users to have a templated library, which will form part of our knowledge base, and being able to download workflows from there to use. But to build standard jobs with multiple tasks is definitely something that is in our roadmap to develop, to enable users to easily repeat those jobs. I think the question was asked.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I think so. Thank you. I'm just looking at the one a little bit further down, and it's asking about whether tasks can be set in fixed order that the user must follow. So task 1 has to be completed prior to task 2, task 3, etc. So I was wondering if one of you guys could answer that one.
Yeah. I was waiting to see if Hannah wanted to. Yeah, absolutely. So in the first release, we're in beta at the moment. So as you know, you may have noticed from my demo, in the top left corner there is an orange badge, sorry, that says preview. So we are in beta, and we have had some of our end users, some of our partners and long-time customers test this in beta for us, to make sure that we're guiding it in the right direction. We could build something that we think is a great idea, but actually without the users and the people that are using this out on the ground feeding back, it kind of almost becomes a pointless task. And that's definitely something that's been fed back to us in terms of having that ability to lock down the tasks. Now, when it comes to use permissions, as part of my demo, I showed you the new assignment feature, the new sharing feature. You can lock down permissions. So let's say, for instance, I've created this job with multiple tasks in it. and I want somebody to go and complete it, I can set their permission so that they can't move any of those tasks around. They have to complete it in the way in which it is set out to do. So, you know, to do, workload, to do. I can also set their permission so they're allowed to move it around. But we have also considered from feedback the ability just to hard lock those tasks down, and that's something that again is in our roadmap to do just that.
Perfect, thanks, Lana.
But you can do it using the assignment feature as well.
Thank you. We've got one question here. So they've already got a WorkfloPlus account. So does this mean they've already got access to WorkfloPlus Web, or what's the process for getting it?
Yeah, it does. So WorkfloPlus Web is available in beta now, and with the launch coming this spring. A date yet to be determined, but I will communicate that early on. You can use it now. You can access it using web.workfloplus.com for testing purposes, and you can use your current team name and your current credentials to log into it, as well as Google Authenticate if you've got two-factor authentication. If you do want to use it now, have a play around with it, just bear in mind that whilst you will see your workflows in the web client, when you complete jobs in the web client, they won't appear on your dashboard or on your current version Android or iOS device. By management, your workflows will push to WorkfloPlus Web, but any job data that is completed in there, triggers will fire, but they won't appear in your current dashboard. They'll appear in the job browsing in the web client.
Can I just also add as well for anyone that's on here, because for people that haven't got WorkfloPlus that perhaps want to have a trial of it, we do offer trials as well. So, I mean, please feel free. You can do a request for a free trial from the website, or you can contact us directly. But we do offer, 30-day free trial of our platform, and that will give you access to all the different elements of WorkfloPlus, as well as, you can have the access to the web client as well. So for those that want to have a little bit of a kick of the tires of our amazing digital workflow platform, please, do contact us and we can set you up.
Thanks, Anna. Another question has come through with regards to coding. Is it quite techy? Do you need to be able to code to use WorkfloPlus?
No, you don't. To build your workflows in WorkfloPlus, for those that aren't familiar with it, we have a really simple drag and drop editor to be able to build digitize your process and build it. And you would manage your workflows in the dashboard currently, and then run them on your end devices. And with the web client, that opens additional devices and operating systems. So laptop, PC, Windows devices, for instance. So we would say it's no code from that perspective. You can really easily digitize your process. It's super, super simple. When you're customizing your reports, our report editor is in HTML and CSS. So there is a tiny little bit of HTML and CSS coding, if you like, but we are very much here to support our end users. We have a wealth of information in our knowledge base, including videos and how to do that, to change your branding colors, to bring the reporting into your brand guidelines, changing your logo, what kind of information you want to include in your reports, what kind of information you don't think is beneficial. So yeah, there is a tiny bits of HTML and CSS, but in terms of taking your current paper-based processes and digitizing them, there is no code. It's drag and drop.
And again, I'll just add again onto that WorkfloPlus has very much been designed with a view that it is easy to adopt. I mean, we appreciate and understand that for businesses and organizations that have established IT infrastructure, and taking paper-based processes, manual processes, converting those into workflows may seem like quite a complex task, but actually, taking the WorkfloPlus platform and converting those processes, paper-based forms, into digital workflows is relatively simple. So that's one of our key things, is about simplicity and ease of adoption. So again, I mean, have a trial if you've not already got WorkfloPlus in your business, but we're always working very closely with our customers, something Alana mentioned earlier as well. So on the roadmap, anything that we develop is fed directly from the requirements of our customers, and also, we look at different verticals and industry sectors to see, you know, what potential features and functionalities are going to add value and add benefit. So yeah, I think ease of use, low code, no code, it's all there.
Thanks, Hannah. We just had a question through asking whether or not the drag and drop functionality will be available through the browser. Not sure if that's to do with the web client or the editor.
Yeah, no, good question. So I think I briefly mentioned it in my demo, but it's great to actually pull it out as a separate item. We are currently working on and in the end stages of developing a WorkfloPlus web editor. So at the moment, if you're familiar with WorkfloPlus, you'll know that to use the web editor, to use the current editor, losing the ability. You are required to download it. It's a Windows operating piece of software, and you do need to download it to your laptop or your PC to be able to use it. However, again, from customer feedback, we found that there were some organisations that had such infrastructure that didn't and network security that made that difficult for some of our users to actually hard download it to your device. So we have created, and I have seen designs for it. It really is great. A web editor, which allows you to access the editor online, no longer requiring you to download it to your device. Again, building into this new flexibility and collaborative working approach, making it easier for our customers to access, making it easier for their end users to then access and complete jobs and get access to your data and your reports. It's a whole new ethos that we're rolling out this year in terms of our approach. And certainly with that comes the web editor, which again, in line with this, will be released, we hope around springtime. And when we do get final versions of that, we will be doing a webinar to take users over that and building, and during that webinar, building a workflow from scratch using the new web editor.
Perfect. Thanks ever so much, Alana. One final question. Multiple users. So is there a limitation on the number of people that can share jobs and run jobs on the web client?
No, so as long as the users have the appropriate access and the appropriate permissions, they are able to be assigned to a job to be able to complete tasks within that job using the new assignment feature. But again, they do need to be users within your team, and they do need to have the appropriate permissions. And then you can set the permissions for your job, which is different to the permissions overarching and what you can see in WorkfloPlus. You can set those permissions within the assignment feature. But no, if they're in your system and they're a user in your account, you can assign them to a job. And that can be, let's say you have 10 users and you want to assign all 10 users, you can assign all 10 users.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Alana. So unless we have any other questions through, I think we'll probably close the session now. If you do have any questions that you think of after we finish today, please feel free to send them across to us. I'll pop our contact information up on the screen now for you. We will be sending a follow-up email with all of the information and a copy of the meeting recording as well. So you will have all of the details if you do want to get in touch with us after the event. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for your attendance today. We really hope you found the session helpful. And but yeah, thanks once again, and we'll sign off. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks
Yeah,
all.
thank you, everyone. Thank you.